All right, welcome to another episode. Lighthouse Healers introducing Greg H. Bicknell, and today's special guest is Jonathan Session. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, man, our pleasure to have you on here. Jonathan, a little background for those of us that don't know you and the 30-second Jonathan spiel.
30-second Jonathan spiel. So Jonathan Session, I am a Air Force veteran of 25 years. I definitely have enjoyed my career and enjoyed my retirement time. Um, Actually, it's been an honor and a privilege to have served such a great nation and to serve my country. But Jonathan Great Spiel, I'm a father of five. I'm a housewife now, as you can call me. So I'm definitely loving my time, and my time has been so valuable and so important to me at this time in my life.
How long you been
Um,
retired?
I've been retired now for 2.5 years.
Okay.
So my time has been so valuable for me at this time in my life because of a lot of my uh mental health frustrations and the mental health capacity to kind of get integrated back into society as I knew it before I began to have some mental blocks, I guess you can call them. But other than that, my life is great, man. I'm blessed. And so that's me in a nutshell. And hey, let's shoot away. Whatever it
Yeah.
is you guys want to talk about.
Greg, what do you got for him?
Well, this is good. I always like seeing Jonathan. He and I, like, we met probably was like maybe 2 years ago, I guess. May
Yep.
have been somewhere around there. And when we met, we immediately clicked. It was like we were like best friends that had never met in life. And so from that point on, we just started messing with each other, having a good time. And we were together for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And so it was just cool. And ever since then, we've stayed connected. And then when we started doing this, Jonathan was one of the people that I thought of and like, man, I want him to be a part of this because this is really cool. It's something that he and I have talked back and forth about us, speaking career and some of the stuff he's doing. We're both Air Force Wounded Warrior ambassadors, and we both love it because we like serving. And Jonathan, he has a great backstory and really just all around, just a good guy. If you see the pictures on his Facebook and all that stuff, great father, real active in his kid's life. And then for me, he calls me sometimes, says, I'm his mentor, but he's been mine too. We kind of go back and forth and take care of each other, just like what Sarah, you and I have done. So it's just a blessing to have him on here. I love it.
That's sweet. That's a big part of that camaraderie part that we always keep talking about of just having somebody, somebody's got your back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And again, as a civilian, we don't understand when you guys talk about having to re-enter the civilized world. I don't know what you call us when you come back out of active duty into the rest of the world, but that always confuses us. It's like, what do you mean you got to integrate back into regular life? What does that mean for you, Jonathan?
So for me, that means so initially prior to joining the military, I think as individuals, we kind of got our own mindset and our own way that we do things and our own lifestyle that we have. But as you go into the military, now you've got to conform to the military lifestyle and the way things are done, and there's processes and procedures put in place for certain reasons, and you're learning all these different strategic tactics of not just war, but just about the country and life in general, about how to deal with you know everyday stressors in life when it comes to being a part of something that's bigger than you. And so when we transform our minds to do that, and especially if you've been doing it for 10 plus years, now you've conformed to that type of lifestyle, to which before you were in the what we so call the free world. Now we're in captivity of the military mindset. And so once we're done with the military, now it's time to uh, put that mindset aside. And it's hard for us to do it, especially if we've done that for 20 plus years. That's been our life. That's been our livelihood. That's been the life of our kids, our spouses. And it's hard to make that smooth transition without having that good guidance and that good like Greg here, like somebody that resonates and knows what you're going through. I think our veterans that are transitioning back into the civilian sector need to have that someone that can resonate with exactly what they're going to, how they're feeling at a certain time. And so that's what it means when we say reintegrate back into the civilian sector or back into the world per se. That's what it means for at least me and some other veterans.
Yep. And on my side, I'm thinking when you're in the military, you've got such a team around you. Like
Most
such,
definitely.
you've
Most
got
definitely.
somebody who's got your back and you got their back, and there's that camaraderie factor to it. And that's lost. Like I'm thinking you actually lose your family when you come out of the military. Am I close to the right feeling on that?
Most definitely, and I say that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't go immediately back to work, because I had lost touch with my family, and like I say, I think I told you guys earlier, my time is so important for me. My time is way more important than any money that a job can pay me or any other thing that happens to be going on, because I was so disconnected at times with my family till where I had to really relearn and reintegrate myself even back into my own immediate family with my kids and my spouse and just some of the people around me, just so that they could go, hey, um, we know that you're going through some things, but here we are. We still love you and we still want to love on you. But for me to do that with um, no uncertainty and no skepticism, it's kind of hard for us because we've been so detached away from our family off and on. We're going here, going there, and it's just a roller coaster ride for most of us.
Yeah, and when you mentioned that, now your family's well, now it's an adjustment for them as well of having you and needing to understand what you're coming out of and coming into. That it's like, what do you mean dad needs to reintegrate into society and into family life? That'd be a
Mo-
hard thing for a kid to take.
Most definitely. So my kids, I have 5 children. I have 2 older kids, and um, and then I have my 3 younger kids, and man, it was trying times. I mean, they saw me some at my worst days, and they saw me at some of my happiest days, and then to for them to see that, and then me detach and have to deploy for 6 to 9 months, and I'm gone, and now they're like, okay, where did this guy go that we call dad, that we call father, that we call friend? Where's he at now? And so then I come back with a whole probably different perspective, different attitude, and sometimes even physically I've changed. I may have been over there lifting a few weights or eat, whatever the case may be, gotten smaller, whatever the case may be. And so
Jonathan, which one was it? Was it weights or eating?
a little bit of both, to be honest with you, a little bit of both. But for them to see that off and on, it kind of plays a number on them as well, and they don't have that stability that I think the kids are really looking for when they're looking at their parents and whatnot. So it was trying times for them as well. It
Yeah, because you
was
do change. Like when you're gone for 9 months, we evolve as human beings. We do change. So
most
yeah, you
definitely.
come back as a different person. Like I know with a lot of healing and things like that, with people, you're not going to be the same person after the healing you were going into it. And people don't want to change, but man, you're changing one way or the other.
Most
So
definitely. Most
might as well
definitely.
pick something that's changing for the benefit.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
know, one of the things that I'll hit up is, Jonathan and I, we both kind of left the service not the way we drew it up on paper.
Most definitely.
And so our service, like mine, I had a bad surgery, and then a year later I was out. And that last year, I don't remember. Jonathan went through some similar situations to where, we went through that churn, and the way that we exited the military wasn't really how we would have drawn it up had when we came in. And it makes it tough because when you come back in and now you're trying to integrate back in your family. For me, I couldn't even, like, I wasn't even physically or mentally available to them for a while. And
Yeah.
I've been out retired since 2019. And even up until recently, I really, I wasn't at the point that I was still looking to give them all. I put myself into my work. I found everything in the world that I could do to keep my mind off that group, because even though like every single person around us it may not exactly be like, you know, they're going to have our back if something goes down, but you're always around a bunch of people. Like
Yeah.
whether they're your friends or they're your coworkers or they're the people you're deployed with or whatever, there's just always a group of people. And then when you get out, it's typically just you.
You.
And
Yeah.
then the thing that's really weird is after you get out, if you go back, and maybe it's the way in the swing world too, but if you go back and swing by work and be like, hey, how you guys doing? They look at you like you're like, why are you here? Like you know, 3 weeks ago, we were like best friends hanging out, laughing, you know, talking about this and that. And now 3 weeks later, I've been out for 2 weeks. I swing by just to say, hey, and people are looking at me like, ain't you got something better to do? You don't have a life, you know? So it's that really, we're so used to moving from place to place that we have to detach ourselves. And we not only do that with the friends when we move from base to base or go on deployment and get tight with somebody, it tends to happen with our families too.
Yeah.
And then we really have to relearn that. And it's like I said, it was even trickier when you kind of end your career after a long career. Me at 29, Jonathan at 25, you know, and it was something that I didn't think I was ready to go, but you know, now that it's been a few years, it's the best kept secret in the Air Force. I'll tell you, I'm
Most
really
definitely.
liking retirement. Yeah, it's nice.
Most definitely. Yeah.
That's we'll edit that part out, Greg.
Yeah, no, you can keep it in there. Everybody knows that. I say it to people all the time.
Yeah.
They were like, "What's it like being retired?" I'm like, "Best kept secret in the Air Force."
Best kept secret. Definitely
It
is.
is. It is, and
And
it's
where's your
because
journey now taking you, Jonathan?
What'd you say, sir?
Where's your John? Where's your journey going forward? What's your plans for now?
So, like I said, my time is real important to me. So, I've kind of trying to been dibbling and dabbling, trying to get back into the workforce. It's kind of scary for me, to be honest with you. I haven't done a job interview in probably over 30 years almost. And so I've been interviewing. I've interviewed the last couple of times. I even had a job, and I joked with my kids. I got fired on my day off, so I interviewed and I got the job, and these people hired me, and I was going through the in-processing portion of getting the job, and then the HR lady called me back and said, "Well, you know, we made a mistake. I guess the company was supposed to hire. They're supposed to look on the inside first of the company to see if anybody wanted the job, and they didn't. And so they went back and did, and so they hired somebody internally, and then they said that my services were no longer needed. And so I was like, before I even started the job, I got fired. But it was definitely an eye opener for me, and pretty much a relief to actually get to go in and interview face to face with somebody because I hadn't done it for so long. And obviously, not just my military accolades that I had on paper, but my presence and just my promptu and my togetherness and how I was and how I presented myself in front of them really made a difference. So the military really gave me a leg up on that part, even when I thought that I was not going to do so well in the interview because I hadn't done it for so long. And so I've been doing that off and on. I've had a couple interviews. I had an interview yesterday, and this company wants me. And so trying to get my feet wet to kind of see if I want to get back into the job force. But I did start my own speaking business. And so it's kind of been slow and, you know, kind of gradually. And I've done some speaking events here locally, and I've done a couple outside of my city, but it's not for me, it's not a lucrative business that I want to gain wealth from, really. It's me wanting to tell my story, me wanting to help others, really inspire others to know that, hey, don't hold it in. I know what you're going through. I went through it. Listen to what I'm telling you. This is exactly how I felt. And there's nothing wrong with you feeling the way that you feel. And it's okay to not be okay. It's all right. Just find the resources that you need and get the help that you need and press and keep
So
going forward.
Sarah, I'm going to say something here. Who does that sound like? Who does
Yep.
that sound like?
But what's the rest of the sentence, right? Because we had this discussion already about it's okay to be okay, and I didn't like that comment because it's not, or else we'd leave you there and we'd leave you
Yeah.
suffering with your PTSD. it's okay to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there, I think is what we finally came up
Most
with.
definitely, most definitely not
Yeah.
okay to stay.
But how do we get them? And that's a big question all the time. How do you get people to make that decision to, because again, as much as it's, we all want to get better, it's still a scary step to get
Yeah.
better. We don't know what's on the other side of that wall. How do you make that? How do we transition people to make that step?
So I think the best way I've found that has helped the people that I have helped is to pretty much guide them, and you have to make a connection that they connect with, that resonates with them, some similarities. If you, so say for instance, I'm an electrician, and there's another electrician going through some of the same things that I've been going through, he's gonna more likely cling to me and going to go, okay, that guy, he was an electrician as well. Man, he probably knows a thing or two about what I'm going through. So let me get my feelers out there, and then they'll reach their hand out, and then it's up to us to grab them and go, hey, come on, man, it's okay. Come go with me. Let me show you that it's better. And by the way, if you look and see my demeanor and see what I'm doing and see how I'm feeling, hey, I'm not doing too bad. Every day's not a good day, but every day is definitely not a bad day. And so come go with me and let me show you how we can get you over here on this side of the coin. And that's, you have to resonate with people in that sense. And once they get that connection with you and that trust in you, and I guess the key thing is that individual has to feel vulnerable enough to give themselves the opportunity to make that step forward. And once they do that, they're off and running to the healing process.
Because with PTSD, again, we have no trust left for anybody, I don't think.
Bingo.
Very secure about telling anybody that,
Bingo.
I'm going to swear, so I'm not going to finish my sentence, but
Right.
Yeah, you know what, it gets tough, because the thing about it is, like a lot of us, when you come in the military, it's changed over the years, the last little
Right.
bit, but when you come in, you're kind of supposed to be like invincible,
Yes.
and you're like, you got this bravado thing about you, and you want to make sure that you do it, and you kind of suck it up. That's kind of the way that you're kind of raised. And then all of a sudden you've got these things going on, but you're in charge of 100 people, 1,000 people, whatever it is. And you don't want to be that guy that doesn't go on the deployment, or you don't want to be that guy. So you just kind of eat it, right? And then all of a sudden you get to that point where you can't do it anymore, or something happens to you. Kind of like Jonathan and my stories are pretty similar to that. Is something happened to us personally, physically, mentally, that we were no longer able to hide it, and we had to have a way to reach out and get a different resource, because what we had been doing all these years no longer was an option, because we mentally just couldn't make that option of, I'm just going to package this away. It came to the surface and it kind of bubbled up. And so that was something that was, different for me, is when I was at a place that I'm like, man, I didn't know what I was doing. And I've been, I changed in 2018, within a 4-hour surgery window. I changed the person that I was 100%. Yeah. And I think, that happens a lot, is when we handle it, but you never know when it's, the PTSD or any of the other symptoms is going to raise their head, and all of a sudden your life has changed. And that's when it really gets tricky, because we've been trained for the most part to just suck it up and move on.
Yeah, that's
it. And it's tough to be vulnerable. And so I think that's part of it, is they teach us how to be, I've heard people say this before, is they teach you how to be a military person, but they don't go back and teach you how to be a civilian.
Not at all.
You got to figure that part on your own.
Yeah, most definitely.
So I'm assuming there's places you can go that teach you that transition, are there not?
Yeah, there's all different types of transitional programs that the military offers. The VA offers different transitional programs, and there's even, they have different groups and clubs that you can join that can help you transition. But I really think it comes down to that individual resonating with what it is that they're going through, with either that group that they're in, or resonating with some individual, to where they're vulnerable enough to say, hey, I need help, and I want to get help, and what does it take for me to get better? and I want to be better, because that's what it took for me. Because I was at the pinnacle, like Greg said. I was there to where I couldn't keep it in any longer. It surfaced, and there I was out on a ledge. I felt like I was alone, but come to find out, there's several people just like me, and so that made it more comfortable for me to go, okay, well, hey, let's all start getting healed together. Let's do this thing together. So,
and I equated, this is something I found that's helpful when I talk to people that may not have been in. So Sarah, what sport do you not know how to play? Like, which one would you say I'm terrible? Is it basketball, football, rugby? Like, what do you not know how to play? Like, what's something that you're like, I'm all thumbs or whatever?
Well, Greg, it depends who you ask. If you ask me, I'm great at all of them. You ask my friends, I suck at all of them. So it depends.
So, but say there's a sport, like but just say there's like this sport that you have no idea. Like, let's just pick basketball.
Yep,
And
I'm pretty bad at
you've been a
basketball.
basketball player your entire life, or you have not been. You've been living, and you've been doing all this different kind of stuff, right? You've just been living your life doing it. You've been trained to be a radio broadcaster, a podcaster. You've been training in social media, and now all of a sudden that career is over because of something happens, or you time out because you can no longer do that again. And they say, you know what? We want you to be a basketball player. And so when you transition out of that career, they say, we want you to dribble. And they put you in these classes and they tell you how to dribble. They show you videos and they say, you bounce the ball like this. You can go behind your back. You can shoot this way. But there's no practical application on doing it until you're physically in the game.
bingo.
And so even though we have all these transition programs and all these things that tells us how to do it, and maybe even show some cool videos and maybe even have some great speakers like Jonathan come in. But at the end of the day, we've been trained just like an athlete how to be a military person. But when we go to transition out, we are shown how to be a civilian, or given a 30-minute briefing, or maybe a 2-day, a week-long briefing, or whatever. And that's supposed to prepare us. That doesn't work that way. The human body, you'd like to think it would, and all of these great programs, but it just doesn't work that way. I can't teach you right now how to go be a military person and say, I'm going to throw you in the military tomorrow and I need you to be able to go do this. You can't do it. Bingo. And so I equate it to an athlete, is because I can show you all the cool drills. I can put you on, let you watch movies of the best coaches. I can have somebody else demonstrate, maybe even bring you to the front of the class and have you dribble a few times. But when you're left on your own and you got to figure it out, it's different. Yeah. It's a lot different.
And you got to think, for 25 years, that's what I knew, military. It's going to take half, if not longer, to make me a civilian again, to be the civilian that I need to be out here to function. It's 25 years of being in a environment like the military. I'm definitely it's definitely gonna take time for me to transition back to that full civilian status. And I don't think I'll never detach away from my military upbringing at all. But now I have to incorporate my civilian mindset into some of my military mindset, which brings a mixture of both. And I have to try to navigate that out here in the society, how to turn it off, turn it on, whatever the case may be. And sometimes that can be kind of tough. That can be tough.
That's very well put, because we don't realize, because you talk military and civilian life, we're thinking, well, how different can they possibly be that you separate them all the time? But just listening to, it's like playing basketball and being a DJ. It's like they are that different in your mind, not in your mind. In reality, they're that different. That's
there's a different mindset. In the military, a lot of stuff that we do is about readiness, right? And so when you talk about readiness and going to war, the money is there for it because it's how you protect a nation. When you get out in the civilian sector, we may look at stuff as a military person and be like, we can't produce it. We can't do that thing unless it's perfect, because that's what we've been trained to do, is to make it perfect. Well, now you've got your boss that says, well, you know what, 85% is good because it's not a safety hazard. We're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We're going to put this piece of junk out there. We're going to do this.
Get somebody killed.
It's like putting a stake in our heart, because we're used to saying readiness. There is nothing but absolute perfection, the closer you can get to it when you're dealing with readiness and people's lives and stuff like that. But then when you get in the civilian sector, it's like, well, if we do make that change, even though it may save a few lives, it may cost us a bunch of money. Yeah. And I don't think the money is worth it. Or if we make this, it'll make it a bunch better, but this right here will make us the profit that we're looking for. And so it's different to us because we're like, we want that perfect. This, I get out of the military and I see like memorandums for record, or I look at stuff that people write and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my
Like
God.
these people, like, what's like, I can't believe this. They missed a period. And then in the long run is, you know what I mean? It's like in the long run, you're going, was it really that big of a deal?
Really that big a
But
deal?
you're so trained to do it, especially at the
Yeah.
ranks we were at. That's what we would review all the time. So when you get out, you're used to seeing stuff that really go back and get in this churn and get stuck in the machine for really, at the end of the day, it's kind of trivial. But you get stuck in that mindset, and then you're used to seeing things that you're like, it's got to be perfect. I'm not going to do this unless it's, and I've said it post-military career. I'm not going to do this because unless it's perfect. And they're like, well, Greg, it's not about, it's not about readiness. It's about revenue. And if we make it perfect, then we're all going to go broke and not have a job.
Most
So
definitely.
that's a different, you have to change that mindset. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with that. So Greg, you've been out twice as long as Jonathan. Do you think you're farther ahead in that progression of accepting civilian life than he is then?
It's hard to say because you really can't compare yourself to somebody else. And with me, I went through a very slow progression because when I got out, I basically went to work in a place that was all prior military folks, like colonels and chiefs. Everybody there was pretty much a prior military person. And so the way they treated me like I was prior military too, because they expected me to work 15 hours a day. And they were, when we had a big mission and stuff like that. But I think after I left that place and really started seeing like what the quote unquote real world was like, it was tricky. So I think I was about 18 months behind when I actually retired from when I really started seeing it. And so I think had I not found people like you and found people like Jonathan that were looking to grow with me, and I'd have been maybe found a group that just wanted to complain and life sucks, because I went through that stage. Like, I don't want to be here. I went through that. But I've got to the point now that I say, you know what, that old Greg before that surgery, okay, that guy did some really cool stuff, but now this guy can do some pretty cool stuff too. And it took me up till almost 9-10 months ago to get to that point. And so it takes a while, and it really, it's a different timing for everybody. And that's the thing, is I think everybody wants you to heal on their timeline, and you have to heal on your own timeline.
There you go.
There is no set in stone time. You have to heal on your own timeline.
There you go.
So with that, I'm going to go over you, Jonathan, with that. So at you're 2.5 years out, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that separation between civilian mentality, I'll go with now, and military mentality, is it a painful separation? It obviously impacts your life and your living. To what degree? You know what I'm asking?
Yes,
it
sir.
breaks my heart when you say it's going to take you that long to reintegrate into civilian life. Like, it just about brings me to tears on it, because but I don't know the pain point on it necessarily either, though.
I wouldn't say necessarily pain, just for me, probably more frustration versus the pain. It's frustrating to try and trying to integrate back into the civilian sector with a military mindset. And that's what you've been doing for umpteen years. And you're trying to integrate back into civilian world with this mindset. And you're wanting everybody else to just conform and get on board with your processes and how, like Greg was saying, we want this memo perfect. You missed a period here, you missed a comma there. So the frustration of it is really what kind of is the fight and the battle that we have. I think
loneliness to it.
Loneliness, most definitely a loneliness, because like Greg said, you're used to a group of people. You're there, you're in the military, you have camaraderie. I can call Greg and say, hey man, let's have a powwow with all the senior NCOs and sit down and go over this. And we all sit down and we hash out whatever it is we're doing. Versus in the civilian sector, that's a little more hard of a struggle to do, and you're kind of left out on an island by yourself trying to figure it out. And so then you bring these military aspects into that, and that's where the frustration comes in, because you're thinking military mindset, they're thinking civilian mindset, and now those two clash, and you're left going, okay, I can't do this. And then the frustration sets in, and now you're starting to detach yourself away even from the civilian sector. And here you are again, you're alone on an island, because now you don't have the military support that you once had before, and you're shunning yourself away from the civilian sector. And so you're stuck right there in the middle. You've got to find that equal balance of bringing your military aspects and mindset, mix it with the civilian mindset and aspects, and make all that work for yourself. And that's very hard to do for most veterans with some kind of mental anguish going on. So,
And then on the employer's side, what's your advice to an employer? Because obviously
mine,
that amount of knowledge and wisdom that you have that you're bringing in to a
yeah,
company is phenomenal. If I can learn to take advantage of, it's not the right term, but to take
yeah,
advantage of that, you'd be a brilliant asset to any business, right?
most
How do I, as an employer, get you to that stage where you feel part of the team?
yeah. So I think each company, this is just my personal opinion, I think most employers should have that, again, that individual or that section or that group of people to resonate with that military member that's coming in with that prior military experience, to bring them into the company as if they were bringing them into the military, like a brotherhood. So again, there has to be that connection and that resignation of, hey, we know you were prior military, so we know what you're going through. We can resonate with that. As a matter of fact, I'm prior military myself. Let me tell you how the company runs, and what the company goals are, and how they treat our military people here. And I think that will make that individual more apt to be comfortable in that environment. Plus, everything I think is still old fashioned as far as word of mouth goes. And now there's a word of mouth about this particular company that caters to the veteran side of the house. And so now my veteran that is comfortable goes back, hey man, come work for these guys. They will treat you good. And they understand what we've been going through.
And is that so? I'm assuming that's a larger company. Have you been
Most
applying
definitely.
to smaller companies as well?
Most definitely. So I have an interview next week with a smaller company. It's a cement company, and they're looking for me to be the electrical superintendent for all the electrical guys that work on all the equipment there at the cement company. And it's a family owned cement business, but what they like is, again, just all for one, the military accolades. And for one, once you say that you're prior service or you're prior military, that alone uh, sets you apart when you're applying for positions, because
So fair enough on that. Like the accolades are
yeah,
fantastic,
yeah, most
but
definitely.
how do they take advantage of that, right? How do they put you to the best use and the best environment for you as a smaller company now, right? Because
Yeah,
they don't have that system to bring somebody in. They don't have
right.
that word of mouth generated. They're probably only hiring one vet, I'm
So so
assuming.
so as a smaller company, they have to work a little harder. They have to actually get to know that individual. So when you're going through the interview process, and when you're sending them your resume, they have to really get down in the weeds to know that individual. I think for a smaller company to actually uh bring you in and make you feel like you are welcomed into their small little world. So it probably takes them a little more nudging and pushing to go, hey, we like it. We understand that you're prior military. We're a smaller company, but you know what? We're gonna treat you just as good as if you were in the military, and we understand what you've been going to. As a matter of fact, why don't you explain to us what it is you need, or what it is we can do to help you um, be an asset to our small company here? And so,
Yeah.
Is there,
So
there's
I'll
a
take
part
that.
of, I'm,
Hold on a second, Greg. On that side, it freaks the stink out of us. Like we're a bit afraid of that, right? We
right,
don't know how to react to you in certain ways. Um, I don't want to set you off. I don't know what your
right,
background is.
right,
So we
most
need, like,
definitely.
I like what your comment was. We need to learn all that,
Yeah,
which would
yeah,
be a process, obviously.
most definitely, most definitely. And so that's probably the biggest thing, that the smaller companies are just like you said. you got that person in that small company going, hey, I got this veteran and I'm looking here, he's a disabled veteran. I don't know what his disabilities are. I don't want to set him off. What's going to trigger his PTSD? Is this are these loud noises? And there's a lot of banging going on out here at this cement factory. So is that going to trigger his PTSD? But until they sit down and dig in the weeds and get to know me and ask me those pertinent questions, they're not going to know. They're gonna do exactly what you say. They're going to speculate and assume that,
which is
hey,
even worse.
yeah,
But again, on the other side of it, are we allowed to ask? Right? Legally, we probably aren't allowed to ask you.
well, legally, you don't. There's a way to actually, just like you and I are conversating now. There's a way to converse with people to where they're vulnerable enough to tell you without even asking. Again, you have to resonate. So, me and Greg, like you said, we were both ambassadors in the Wounded Warrior program, not knowing each other's story at all, really initially, but just for the simple fact that we both were in the program together was kind of a connection already. And so now we're more apt to open up to each other and go, oh, hey, man, well, let me tell you what's been going on with me for the past 10 years. And then I spill my beans, and all of a sudden he opens his beans up and his beans spill. And now here we are with a big plate of beans. And man, everybody's having a feast off of what me and Greg have now shared with everybody. And so you gotta be able to resonate. That's so important, to be able to collaborate and resonate with that individual, whether you're the employer, or you're the employee, whatever the case may be. That person has got to feel a sense of belonging and a sense of, ownership. They have to have those aspects about them. And so I think those are the things that will get people through, make the employer, big or small company, they're going to have something in place to where they can resonate with that veteran.
Yeah, so that's got me triggering on there should be something to help those employers out. Is there, are there things out for small and large employers? Hey, you got a vet coming in, here's a suggestion for you. How do you bring them in? Special requirements they might need, or not even requirements, special things that'll make them more productive to your business.
Most definitely. So, and you do have those, especially with some of the larger companies. You have a section in some of the larger companies that go, hey, we got a veteran coming in. I need you to take him or take him or her and make sure that they're taken care of, whatever their needs are. And here's some of their disabilities. I know I was filling out an application applying for a job, and it actually will list some disabilities. Are you a disabled veteran? Yes. Or what are your disabilities? Will you require assistance on the job, and that kind of thing? And hey, fill it out. Hopefully they're being honest with you. And now the employer can actually cater to that individual's needs. Okay. And I don't know, that may be some way that they can also go, well, this guy he's got a missing leg, so he's not going to be able to perform up to the same standard as this guy with two legs. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and go with it.
I don't know about that stat there. I think ex-military work twice as hard as somebody with two legs.
Most definitely. I think so too. I know a couple people like that. So, but I mean that's just kind of I think outside the box kind of idea of what I think. Those type of things are very minuscule when it comes to trying to find out about that particular individual. You have to get down in the weeds and know what that individual needs, and know how those needs will help him be an asset to your particular company. And that's just the bottom line.
Sorry, Greg, I cut you off. Do you remember what you were going to say?
Well, I work in this field now. And there are accommodations that, you can make for many of the disabilities that are out there. And that's an important thing. There's adaptive sports, there's accommodations that go on inside different workplaces. There's a ton of things available even through the VA. And what the toughest part is, as a veteran, you do have this great skill set, but not everybody, right? You have folks, and so being a veteran, there's kind of a two-edged sword, because You have the ones that had a very great career, did a lot of really good things, but we're just a cross section of society too. So there are also those eggheads, those knuckleheads that
Yeah.
get out and they give folks a bad name.
Yeah.
And so, that people may get a bad taste in their mouth because they don't know the difference between a senior airman and a master sergeant.
Right.
They might know, they may not. They just know you were a military person, or they know you were enlisted or an officer or whatever. And so there's such a misconception of the different things. And like we were at the executive level, what I mean? We were doing things that they pay people in companies a lot of money to do. But when we get out and retire, we're now at the bottom of the food chain
Yes,
for the
sir.
most part,
Yes,
and
sir.
we have to go and improve ourselves. Where before we retired, we were the thumbs up, thumbs down guy, the
Right.
guy that got paid to say, hey, we need to think about this a little harder. To
Yeah.
where when you go into a civilian company, you're just a new guy that they hired and you're starting from ground zero. Even if it's in a position that has a higher pay rate, you're still going to
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
prove yourself.
Yes,
And
sir.
so we've already proved ourselves for 20 plus years.
Years. Yeah.
And so then when you come out there, all of a sudden, I heard him say that in retirement many, many years ago, said, today you're senior master and so, tomorrow you're going to be Mr. How are you going to handle that? And I used to always think, I'll handle it fine, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't handle it at all.
Yeah.
Like not at all, because I would sit there and be like, yeah, I should be the CEO of this place,
Yeah.
and they're like, well, you're now this arrogant, military person that came in here, right? But the thing about the military folks that I see, and I've interviewed a ton of them, I've hired some for my own personal businesses, and then the places I've worked for as a director. And the thing about it is when they come in, you sit and you do have that conversation and you talk about, like your capabilities, and it's all on paper. A lot of times you have to follow the paper. And that's what the transition programs that we have that are very, very good for, is to help get that baseline resume.
Most
But you
definitely.
can't just stop there. Just like in any job, you have to be willing to progress, willing to continue to learn, willing to begin to reach out and use that network that you have to be able to progress and then get into a job that maybe is more suited. It took me 4 years to finally get to a job that I looked at my wife and I said, okay, I feel like I'm finally back at a commensurate level to where I was at when I retired. It
Yeah.
took me almost 4 years. And that was hard. And even in those new jobs, you're still trying to prove yourself and trying to relearn. And,
Right.
like for me, I'm in a whole different career field. I'm doing something totally different than what I did in the military.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally different. And so you just have to be willing to learn. But I think that the military I think you have to give military folks a little more latitude. If you come in, you kind of got to understand it a little more. I think that's where the effort has to go, is
Mm-hmm.
because you kind of do what we call in the military, we call it commander's intent. Is you tell me what you want to get done, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I'm just going to take care. You don't have to tell me all the details. Like I'm going to do better than what you could anyway. A lot of those folks are in those ranks. But when you start telling me all these little bit of details, I'm like, well, do you want my skill set, or you just want a body to do what you say? That's the way I feel when it happens to me. Jonathan?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're definitely right, Greg. I mean, it's the commander's intent. Yeah, just tell me what you need to do, and I'm gonna get it done. I need you to step back, get out of the way, and let me get it done. And that's how we operate. And so that's how we know to operate. And so when we're not in that arena, it feels awkward for us. It feels kind of crazy. And so we don't know how to take that at times. Like Greg was saying, I mean, I'm thinking, man, okay, when I get out, I can probably find me a decent job, kind of that'll be commensurate with the rank I was at when I was in the military. But lo and behold, I'm getting a lot of those doors shut in my face because, like he said, they don't know me from Adam, so I got to prove myself. All I'm saying is that I was in the military. That's the first thing they're looking at, and they look at some of the other things on my resume, but that military background, it kind of gives me a little nudge, but still they're gonna, hey, okay, I know he was in the military, but can he do this job here in the civilian world? And so that's he hit the nail on the head. It's frightening at times and kind of discouraging at times as well. But you keep pushing, keep gnawing away until you find out where you fit in at. And so that's where I'm at, Greg. I'm
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 right there with
I'm
you.
trying to
I'm still
find I'm
finding
trying
out
to
every
find
day.
exactly where I'm supposed to be at. So
Yeah.
Now, does Greg's story of he's where he wants to be now encourage you? Hearing other success stories of other vets that have made it through, or does it
Oh man,
discourage
yeah. That guy doesn't even know. I follow him all the time. I'm looking at what he done posted on social media, whatever, because I know that he's going about it the right way for one, and he's doing it in a way that is kind of pretty similar to how I would like to do it. He's doing some of the same thing. I know he likes to serve. He loves helping people, definitely near and dear to my heart as well. So if they say you're only as good as the five people that you hang around, and I would have to say Greg is one of my five, and so I want to be just as good as he is when whatever he's doing. If I can watch him and see what he's doing, I know I'm gonna gain some kind of reciprocity from what it is he's doing, and I just that's just how I operate, and it's worked so far. He's an inspiration to me. He is. He really is. From the time that he he started camaraderie, and from the time, man, it was just he's got this. Me, I was reading this book. I don't know. I just finished this book called "The Secrets to a Millionaire Mindset," and I swear they talk about him in that book. He's got millionaire mindset. He's got a millionaire mindset.
I hope my bank account catches up with
Yeah,
my
yeah,
mindset
yeah,
here one
yeah,
of these
yeah.
days.
Yeah, it will. It will. It will. It will. Yeah.
You know what? I'm so humbled by that. You know, we become good friends, and you know, and I mean, I'm almost tearing up. I'm kind of fighting it right now.
Yeah.
Uh, but you know, when people say that, it man, you got me choked up. But
No.
I appreciate you so much, man, because it's something that, you know, as you go through and you struggle and you fight and you fight and you fight, and you know my backstory and you know what I went
Sure.
through. And like I said, probably less than a year ago, I was finally at a place and I said, I'm back, you know, and then Sarah and I have been talking then, and I said, Sarah, man, let's do this, you know.
Yeah.
And I kind of got what the swagger back. Like before, my wife would even ask me, Greg, he would say, you know, things didn't bother you before. You didn't think about it. You didn't. And in the last, you know, 6 or 8 months, I've been like, all right, that's a decision we're gonna roll, you know. And I've got the confidence back, and that the decisions
Good.
I'm making are I'm gonna live with them, and I'm gonna push forward, and I'm gonna call and talk to people like Jonathan and you and say, you know, am I doing this right? And I'm willing to accept that thing. And I just, man, I'm so humbled by what you just said. I'm glad I recorded this because I'm gonna play it back and
No,
I'm gonna
man.
put myself to sleep to your
Yeah.
melodic voice of saying that I got a
No, man.
millionaire mindset. I'm gonna play that for my wife every morning when she
Millionaire
thinks I'm
mindset.
doing all these. When she thinks I'm doing all these crazy things, I'm gonna be like, listen to
No,
what Jonathan said.
no.
We're gonna
Jonathan?
go there
Jonathan,
together
look,
though.
look what
Hey,
you have created, Jonathan. I'm gonna have to listen to
yeah.
this for months now.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
but here's the thing, Jonathan. You know as well as what you said is we're going together.
Oh, yeah,
All
yeah.
of us,
Most definitely.
we all
Most
going
definitely.
together.
Most definitely.
That's
That's
the
what
way
it's
it
all
works.
about. Yeah,
That's we all going to go together.
that's what it's all about.
We're gonna feast on that plate of beans, but we're gonna have some steak
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
other plate.
Yeah. Good deal. Yeah. Yeah, good deal.
With that, Jonathan, you have a story for us? I love stories.
Okay, so let's see. A good story. Let me see. I got a good story.
Greg's full of stories. That guy.
Let's see. Okay, let me. So, man, it's kind of off topic, but um, my daughter. So my oldest daughter, Janae, she's my brainiac. She went to Baylor University, graduated with high honors. Her aspirations was to go to medical school, but she deferred that because she has a boyfriend. Weston is her boyfriend, and you know he's a good kid. He's from Seattle. They went to college together, and they've been dating now for probably 4 or 5 years. And so he actually proposed to my daughter back in June, but he came to me first and said, "Hey, Mr. Session, I'd like to come by the house and talk to you." I said, "Okay, I got to take my son to football practice, but swing by." And so I got to the house, and you could tell he was so nervous. I mean, he was still sitting in the car outside. Now, the rest of my family's here in the house. He wouldn't even come to the door to come in the house. And he had been sitting out there for probably about 45 minutes to an hour, just sitting in the car waiting on me. And so I get to the house. I didn't see him in the car, and I walk on in the door, And I said, hey, did Weston come by? And I said, well, I don't know, but there's a funny looking car sitting out front. And so I go out there, he's in the car, and man, he's beat red. And he's and I said, hey man, come on in. What's going on? How long you been here? He said, Mr. Session, I've probably been here for the last 45 minutes. I said, okay, come on in. And so he comes in the house. I said, what's going on, man? He said, I really wanted to ask you something. I said, okay, go ahead. And he said, you know, me and Janae, we've been dating for about 4.5 years, almost 5 years now. And I'd like to ask you for your daughter's hand in marriage. And I turned and I said, why in the hell would I do that? How would I let you marry my daughter? And oh my God, man, this guy. Oh my God, man, I had to finally just stop because he was so, I mean, he was out of there. He was totally out of there because he was already nervous before he came over. I said, no, Weston, man, it's an honor, man, to have you ask me that, to come and ask me that, man. He said, oh, Mr. Sessions, man, I was so scared. He said, I almost peed my pants.
Oh, we got to edit that part out.
Yeah,
that'll make news. You'll be hearing about that forever.
Yeah, so yeah, man, he asked my daughter for her hand in marriage, which was good, man. He's a good kid. I was totally approving, but to see his face and to hear his voice, man, he was scared shitless. He was.
Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Greg, you got a happy story for us?
Well, you know, I'm gonna tell you a story about Jonathan.
Okay.
So this is and that, you know, and Jonathan's always cracking jokes, and you know, we kind of keep it light, you know, going back at each other. And we were on our very first outing, right? And since we very first met, we were talking about doing like this speaking tour, right? We were talking about going. He knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And so we were going around like, man, we got to figure this out. We got to, like, you know, go put something together and maybe travel a little bit and do a road tour.
Yeah.
I said, but you know, we're gonna have to come up with a name for our tour. And he starts singing Ebony and Ivory. And so I started cracking up, and I'm like, that's gotta be it. I'm like,
that's it.
And so
Ebony and
every now and then I'll send him, or he'll send me a little post of, you know, the little meme with the you know, the GIF or whatever that has Ebony and Ivory singing and doing their thing in there. But we're gonna make it. We're gonna get that.
And we're gonna get it together, man. We'll get it together.
Yeah. We got Ebony and Ivory, and then we got Sarah. He'd be Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, salt and pepper. There you go. Gotcha. That's it.
Jonathan, brother, thank you so much for coming on our show with us. Beautiful to have you with us. Thank you for sharing all your stories and your wisdom with us.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to invite you back in a year and see where things are at.
Please do, man. Please do, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. You guys are an inspiration, man. I'm lucky to be a part of such a great movement, man. You guys this is probably, you know, this is part of the healing process, really, is just being able to sit down and talk, and just kind of tell your story and kind of, you know, just let things out. And so that's part of the healing process. And you guys are doing a great job of making that happen. And so thank you so much. Thank you.
Blessings to you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Greg, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, man. This was good. This was good.
Love you guys.
Love it. Yeah, same here. Love you guys. Out.
Man.
All right. You guys still there?
Yeah. We always, Jonathan, we always hold up. We didn't tell you the end of it. We always try to like hold up for like 15 seconds before and after. We had a producer that kind of told us that little secret.
I'm sitting there, my ears are hurting from smiling, trying not to laugh out loud. Oh. That poor kid sitting out in the car.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was nervous, man. Poor Weston, man. Good kid, though, man. He's an accountant for some oil company. And he does pretty well. He's
good.
Good
and we still record, John, just like I told you before, just so you know, we're still recording.
Yeah,
just because we never know what kind of outtakes we're gonna get.
Yeah, we'll get the good outtakes. Yeah, that's where all the good stuff is, on the intakes and the outtake. Yeah.
That's why we started recording when we started and finished when we finished. So, at the end of one of the things, the very first one we did, I stopped the recording and Sarah goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And so I had to hit record and start it back up. He's like, "What are you doing? Put the record back on. We need to record this." Because
So
he and I have had,
where will you guys go with this? What will you guys be like? What will you be doing? Is this like
It's exactly what you said 30 seconds ago. It's just about inspiring.
okay, got you.
If we help one person out, man,
Most
that's all
definitely.
it takes.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Good deal.
It's just
yeah,
inspiring. People know that they're not alone. I think it's a big part of it.
That's it.
But then, which you also said, right? It's just about, man, you don't have to walk alone. First of all, you're not
Right.
alone, and there's places to go. Every
Mhm.
once in a while, there'll be something out there. Like Greg knows a ton of resources that you can go after for business, even or for help with anything. And you
Right.
never know what will spark, right?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, most
and this
definitely.
is one of the things too, Jonathan, is like we're like the speaking thing and doing some of that. Sarah, it's funny right now. I don't know if I told you this, but like Sarah's in Canada. I'm here. We're here in the States right now. The guy that does the edits on this and the marketing type stuff is in Spain, and then
Wow.
like the producer editor guy is in Argentina. Is that right? That's the team that Sarah's
Wow.
assembled, and
Wow.
then I supply the Zoom meetings and the recording for all that. But what it's going to amount to, like for me, and we've talked about this before, is I keep trying to come up with that book, and I'm going to throw this title at you and let you see what you think about it. So the title of my book is going to be After Churners Ignite. Hang on, I got to read it because I'll mess it up. I had it written all down here. Uh, let's see here.
Jonathan, what part of the U.S. are you in?
I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area in Texas. Yes, sir.
So the name of that thing is After Churners Ignite, light new fire, find new fire. After Churners Ignite, light new fire. So instead of afterburners, after churners, and so
Yeah,
it'll talk about the transition period.
most definitely.
And so, what do you think about that title? I'm doing votes. I'm doing a little straw poll. So after
Man,
Churners Ignite,
man, that's good. That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. I knew that's what you were talking about when you said it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
And I think
Especially
for military folks will
yeah,
resonate,
they
especially
will most definitely. Especially your maintainers.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, they definitely will. Yeah, that's a good one. Wow. Yeah,
So we're just trying to grow this. This is our fourth episode right here with you.
that's good.
And Sarah and I, so you don't usually tell me who's coming on. So this guy that he brought on earlier today, like I had no idea. And this guy had like
Yeah.
cosmic lights and stuff flashing in the background, super smart, and all this stuff. And so we started doing this, about a little over a year ago. And
Yeah.
he would try to bring on guests and he didn't want me to know who they were because he wanted to see my reaction. Well,
Yeah.
today this guy comes on and he's doing a thing. Like I said, the guy's a good guy. I sit here like this for like an hour.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what to say. And then
Yeah.
finally, Sarah, if you can believe this, finally Sarah goes, "Well, we do have another guest on here. Greg, what do you think?" And I was like, man, I don't even know what to think. Like I was like, I am so, you know what I mean? I'm just sitting here listening to this guy go, and I'm like, I'm not sure. I think I know what he's talking about. And then I would try to put it into some kind of perspective I can understand. And then I didn't know if he told me, yeah, that's right, or no, that's wrong, because I didn't understand what he said to answer my question. I had no idea. So
Oh wow.
it was a lot of fun. It really
It
was.
was.
Wow,
He was
man.
like the information was phenomenal. If you can put it in actual perspective, what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So literally, he went into the micro part of your neurons, which is part of the trauma that we have,
Yeah.
right? And dissipating that neuron and breaking it apart based on the um, third oxygen something or
Wow.
another. That
H3O and bringing it down to the hydrogen level where it broke it down into water. And
Wow.
he was like, I'm like, okay, he's talking about gray matter. He's talking about neuroplasticity. He's talking about the way that the brain is wired in between
Yeah.
prefrontal cortex. Like I'm trying to put all this together, and he's saying it in a way that I've never heard explained. And but really, when I go back through and listen to it, and I try to ask him some of those questions, but he was so much deeper
Yeah.
than a place that I can understand at this point, that I was like, but it was making sense. The more he talked today, honestly, the longer he talked, the more it made sense.
Yeah, see.
Like when he first started talking, I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the longer he spoke, the more I'm like, okay, I understand what he's saying. Or not totally, but I had a good grasp in it, or at least I was able to put it into a context I could wrap my brain around.
It was definitely.
Yeah, that was something cool. So I'll get some more of him up there because I want to talk to him more about thought. Where does thought originate? Because thought does not originate in the brain.
Yeah.
We think it does. But that's not where thoughts come. Thoughts coming from this area
Yeah,
somewhere.
the subconscious is somewhere. Yeah.
No, man, because that's still in the brain. I'm talking it's outside of our bodies where thought comes from.
Yeah.
They don't
Mm.
know that original
Cheryl's
thought.
got
Thought
Cheryl's
is
got a
great.
lot of energy background and kind
Yeah,
of
you probably
like so.
you own to something. You own to something. You own to something. I
So
like it.
when he was talking today, I was like, this is good, man. Because I asked him, well, how can we take this and package it and take it to the masses? And then by the time we got to then, I figured out it was bee spray. It was honey
Yeah.
spray, non-sticky honey spray. And I'm like, okay. And then
So my
even on his little website, even on his website that he has, he's like talking to this group of people, and he's got this spray and he's spraying on his hands, talking about regenerating nerve cells and stuff.
yeah,
And I'm just watching it going, man, that like I want to try it. I told him, I said, I want to be,
yeah,
I want a bottle. Like because he was talking about migraines and different stuff. I'm like, look, man, if that stuff works, I'll be your number one advocate. I'll tell you
yeah.
the same thing I told a couple other
Because doctors don't know what causes a migraine. They
They
don't have a
don't
clue. Do they?
they don't have a clue. Not at
no
all.
clue.
Not at all.
No, they
So
just
my
give us drugs and numbs us up.
so my psychiatrist, he's a holistic type of psychiatrist. And he does I think you guys have heard it, TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Oh yeah. I've heard
So
of it.
I did TMS, and I didn't think it worked. I didn't think anything was doing. Basically, they put a magnet here on your right side and the left side. One side's for depression, the other side's for anxiety and PTSD and all that. And so um, the magnet isn't actually touching your head. It's kind of just right above your head. And it's supposed to reset all the neurons and electrical impulses in your brain to reset your mindset, really. But I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. I'll do whatever. And so he's also a research guy. So he goes to Florida with like four other um, brain surgeon type guys. And so he took a scan of my brain before he did TMS, and then he did a scan after we did TMS. And there was a huge, significant improvement on the depression side. And lo and behold, um, I really don't, I'm not too depressed anymore. And I was thinking, okay, was it really TMS that worked? And so he sat down and he did a whole um, PowerPoint for all these doctors and medical folks here in the Dallas area about TMS and how it works. And he used my brain example for the presentation. And then I had to go and speak and said, hey, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if it was the TMS, but I don't have some of the thoughts that I normally have been having. And I kind of operate in a different realm now. And so he says he swears by TMS, and then that is what prompted him. He's opened up probably 5 or 6 TMS clinics here in the Dallas area, and I just thought it was kind of interesting because when he showed me the two brain analysis, it shows a big, like, he had it color coded on the pre picture. It showed all this yellow disarray in my brain, and then on the other one it just showed the brain matter, how clear it was, and it had a small bit of the little yellow, which was supposedly the depressive distraction that was causing me to think the way that I thought. So I thought it was pretty cool.
So I'm thinking you should get a job at one of those wreckers where they have the big magnets.
Yeah, yeah,
Go stand
yeah.
underneath that
Just
after
stand
during
under that.
lunch hour.
Just stand under.
There's a place there's a place down here that does a lot of the IR thing. It's called the Gray Team. I'm actually
Yeah,
a part of this group that I'm a part of, and I did the TM. I did put the hat on
yeah.
and all that stuff. Went through it, and I did that for like 30 minutes, and then I went and sat on this magnetic bed, and it was really super
Yeah,
loud. And so I put
yeah.
these headsets on, and they use this sound resonance stuff that
Right,
we were
right, right,
trying, and
right.
then they had an IR sunroom that you would go sit in and it helped heal.
Sunroom,
So
yeah.
all these different things. and they're getting a lot of funding for it. So, like I said, I'll try about anything
Me
that'll
too.
make me feel
Yeah,
better.
me
I'm
too.
like, I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll take your beeswax and rub on
Yeah.
myself, and we'll see what happens.
Whoa, fella.
The bees gonna be following Greg around, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
if stuff works, it works. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
where it's from. It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's it. I
man.
think, different things work for different people. We're
They
all
do.
different
They do.
beings,
We're all different. Yeah, we're all different.
and I think that's, I don't discount anything. Now, I do there's one group that'll say, give me 4 hours, I'll heal you from PTSD. And I'm like, I don't believe that. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? And I went through that protocol. It helped me immensely.
Yeah.
And it really did a lot, and
Yeah.
allowed me to be a better speaker for Air Force Wounded Warrior, to be an ambassador.
Yeah.
But it didn't heal me.
No,
It took some of the stuff that I had going on and allowed me to kind of take off the heat off the trigger and kind of put it in a memory, made it more feel like a memory than a trigger. And so for that part, it worked. But I just, when they make those really broad claims on that, for me in that particular situation, I'm like, I'm not so sure that it'll totally heal it. But I do think that it did something, because I was able to do things I couldn't do before without breaking down.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
all
take
good.
that, right? That on its own was worth it.
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely, it was.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
well, anyway, boys, it is getting almost 8 o'clock. I've been told that I am traveling. We're doing about a 12-hour road trip tomorrow or better. And I don't do good after that. So I'm glad we finished with this, though, Jonathan. I needed you on that wall with me today to have my back after that last couple of hours.
Yeah.
I needed somebody that I could relate to. I couldn't relate to that other guy very much.
Well, great. I'm going to Alabama for the Wounded Warriors. I'm going back to the First Sergeant Academy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Next week I'll go.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I just put in to be an ambassador also for Bunker Labs.
Yeah.
For their entrepreneur program, and then I was asked. It's still in the works. They're working through it now, but the Veterans Entrepreneur Initiative, which is part of the, they're going to be a big help to all of us, the three of us here. So we have the National Entrepreneur Center here that's in Orlando. Yes. It's only 5 miles from where I work. They have resources that you can't even imagine. Like, it's just unfreaking believable.
Wow.
And it's all free.
What?
The guy I talked to last night had over 40 years of a nonprofit experience. There was a guy that spoke last night at a business academy I went to that was the marketing director of Ashley Furniture. Like, he was the guy, $300 million deal. The other lady that was there, who's the chapter chair that's here, she's the one that's done the really high-end stuff, like the Chuck E. Cheese commercials. And she was the marketing director that implemented a lot of the stuff that we've seen for Disney and some of the bigger commercials that were highly successful. So these are all amazingly successful folks, and it's all free, and it's all available to me 5 miles from where I work. And so I put in at Veterans Entrepreneur Initiative, they've asked me to come and speak on the nonprofit stuff when they do their classes. So they have entrepreneurs that come in. There's always 3 or 4 nonprofit folks, but they don't do much with nonprofit because there's no money in it. It's what they tell me. But they want me to come in to give them an outlet and a resource to reach out to. And I told them I'd be more than happy to. So once or twice a month, I'll go in and speak, for 30 minutes or so at their entrepreneur deal.
Yeah, good deal, man.
Good deal. All right, gentlemen, brothers, love you guys. Jonathan,
love you guys.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Have a good night.
Sure. Have a good one.
Thanks.